Hey guys, so I want to first say, please listen to what I'm talking about in this video. Not the left field subjects people want to take this on, but what I'm discussing in this video. That's what I have to say first, because it's funny when you post things, whether you type them or whether you do a video, people are always talking about subjects you're not even talking about. But I want you guys to stick with me on this video. So I started back dating again, okay? And at the end of every year where I thought I was ready to be married, I learned I wasn't ready yet. I'm be honest, it's just speaking about myself. There were things I learned about myself. There were depths that I learned I can go into that I didn't know existed before. Things that I learned that I need to be happy as an individual. And then if I had dated before, had an interaction with someone, didn't even have to be someone that I dated. But in meeting different friends or different coworkers, I learned things that made me happy. So at the end of the year, I'm like, oh, I wasn't ready yet. I wasn't, me enough or me to another level to say, okay, well, now I can pick a mate. Okay. So I'm back to dating after a 4-year relationship. And I spoke to one person and I said, oh, I want a partnership relationship. And he said, oh, you one of those. I'm like, the hell is one of those mean? Now, here's my question. If we're the same age and we've had the same education and we both have the same spiritual beliefs and we both never have been married and there is no school for this, do you mean to tell me that just because you are a man, that qualifies you to be the head of the relationship? Are we learning and growing together at the same time, at the same pace? If we had the same education or about the same age, got out of school around the same time, we're both still single. Neither one of us went to school to be married. And if there is a school, who's your teacher? What are the subjects? We all know some schools have an agenda and some lies and some books. What qualifies you to be the head versus a partner? Shouldn't we learn and grow together? Shouldn't we make decisions together? If I'm supposed to have a meal on the table at the end of the day, just because you're the head, but what if I work the same hours you work? I'm up the same time you up. I'm tired the same amount of time you're tired. I want to sleep in just as much as you do. But I'm supposed to get up to cater to you now. I'm going to say this. In a partnership, if our schedules are that way, shouldn't we decide, okay, what's going to make this work? Versus you having expectations of me and me having expectations of you, or you having expectations of me that are unrealistic to the reality we're both living in. Don't you see me going to work too? You don't think I'm just as tired as you are? Or because I'm now your wife, I'm supposed to sacrifice my mental, emotional, spiritual health and energy to cater to you in an unrealistic environment. Again, we doing the same amount of hours in a day, doing the same amount of work. Wouldn't it be more feasible to say, okay, we go grocery shopping on Saturday, we both cook on Sunday, so we have Tupperware full of dishes all week long? Isn't that more of a partnership, like an even trade-off relationship, than just to say, I'm supposed to do X, Y, and Z because I'm the wife? Now, let me tell you where the head of the household thing does work for me at a moment in time. There was a point in time where women couldn't have a bank account, couldn't own land or a home, no property could be in your name. We didn't vote. We could barely read or write because education was not thought to be something that women should have. Okay? Now, when your husband was the one who could have all of those things, could read, of course he would be the head of the household. Otherwise, how would either one of y'all function? And then what ended up happening was you were not allowed to leave your house until a man presented himself worthy enough to take care of you the way that your father took care of you, or your mother and father under that roof took care of you. Then you left. Then I understand head of household. And then because you did not have that education, you were not working. He was the breadwinner. He brought home the money. You were home all day, you or you with the kids. And by the time he got home, yes, he should have dinner on the table. That I understand. But because that's not what we live in now, don't you think at some point some things should change? Now, here's what I'm going to say. If you're that type of man and you're that type of woman where you want to have dinner on a table when your man get home and that makes you feel beautiful and prideful and that makes you feel like a strong man and that's what you think the head of the household is all about, there are people out there for you. And that's why I said to this particular man, we not going to work. On top of other things, he liked to bicker and argue and laugh when you got irritated because he didn't understand how irritating he was. And I just bowed out. Maybe it's me, dude, but we ain't going to work. But as human beings, and I always tell people different land, different rules, okay? And when I moved from Cleveland to Arizona, I didn't really have allergies. I had to learn what dust storms were. I had to learn that scorpions can crawl in your shoe. You know, it's different land, different elements, okay? Different culture, different factors, different way of doing things. And you can act like you acted previously, but you're going to have some different kind of results that are not going to be beneficial to the actual reality that you live in. So when I moved from Arizona to Atlanta, my allergies acted a fool, still do to this day. And some people that move here that never have allergies all of a sudden have allergies because they're just like, oh, I don't know what this is. I just have a cold all the time. I'm always getting a headache, a sinus headache, bruh. You're not having a cold, you're having allergies. But because they're like, I never had allergies in my life. Well, when you walk around, you in Atlanta, and you breathing in all this pollen cocaine that's blowing through the air, you're going to have allergies because different land, different rules. And I say that to lead into my next point. We always like to say, well, our grandparents stayed together. Why can't we stick it out like our grandparents stuck it out? I'm speaking for myself. These are all my opinions, okay? But I want y'all to start thinking a little differently. You don't have to, but just giving it to you. I sat down with my grandmother, and when we discussed her relationship with my grandfather, he's been dead like 16 years, I think, 16, maybe 17 at this point. She still does this. Wipes away tears talking about their life together. And as a little kid, I was like, oh, well, maybe old people just sleep in separate beds. I don't know. But she said to me one day, she said, as a woman with no education, you could get a job, but it wouldn't be enough to take care of 3 kids. So with 3 kids, when you're unhappy in your marriage, where do you go? What do you do? And basically, she was getting at the answer of you stay your ass right there. So it wasn't that our grandparents had these magical relationships. It was one, they're not going to tell you everything that went on back then. They're not going to say your grandpa used to beat my ass on a regular basis, or he was an alcoholic, or he was bisexual. But back then, they they kept it real quiet, and he just had a lot of male friends, and they went out a lot and hung out a lot, you know. But the thing was, you get married to a woman, point blank, period. Just church made you do it. You get married to a woman. So that point of our grandparents staying together was circumstantial in a lot of cases. Granddaddy had, other kids and another family down the street. I'm not saying all these things went on with my grandparents, but some of them did. So at the end of the day, it wasn't that you just stayed and you were happy. You stayed because you didn't have the education to leave. And if you did, you weren't making the money enough to take care of 3-4 kids. Sometimes back in the day, you had 8 kids because 2 might die off in the winter. One might not live past 14. One might get eaten coyotes in the next farming season. You're going to need them kids. But now those circumstances, have changed. So now people are not having as many kids. So why are we not adjusting to the reality that we live in now? Women can own land. We can have our own homes. We can have our own properties. We have an education. A lot of times, women are making more money than men. So when we talk about relationships, if you can have your material things over there, and I can have my material things over here, wouldn't it behoove us to say we need to get together to make each other happy, to better one another? Not so you can rule me as an individual. And I'm not talking about the men who are realistic enough to say, okay, I'm going to get married, but yeah, I need to consult my wife. In that, it's a partnership. In that, your wife probably calls you Big Daddy enough that you feel like you are running the show, but you know good and goddamn well you run everything by your wife. That's a partnership. You may not call it that. You may need your ego to be stroked just enough for you to say you're the head of a household, but it's a partnership. If we're going to move forward and do good things together, shouldn't we have a partnership versus this dictatorship? Shouldn't we be business partners versus CEO and employee? So I'm talking about that dramatic caveman mindset where men just think that because they're a man, they automatically qualify to be the head of a relationship. Who taught you that? Who taught you how to be the head of a relationship? And even if you can say, I grew up and I saw my parents do it, so my dad taught me, he may have taught you how to be a man, but we live in a different day and age than our parents, and we live in a different day and age, way different day and age than our grandparents. So we have to adjust. Different land, different rules. This is a different time. There should be different, not even rules, but to each their own. But you shouldn't go into a relationship with these expectations that your wife should be doing XYZ or your husband should be doing XYZ. You need to be flexible. I read an article that said the silent killer of most marriages is expectations versus being flexible to the reality you both live in. I was talking to someone else, and he said, I'm home now. It's been a long day. I got to go upstairs, get in the shower, and then I got to come downstairs and make me dinner. But oh, if I had a wife. Now, first of all, let me cover something. And I'm going to say this to my young women because I was you, and I want you to learn from me. Don't let these fools thirst trap you into this marriage wedding talk, okay? Because most men that I know that actually did go off and get married never talked about it all the fucking time. They didn't say stupid shit like that. At the end of the day, you know what? He gonna eat anyway. So don't you, I can cook. Oh, honey, I made you dinner for the whole week since you working so hard. Stop trying so hard, ladies, okay? Because if he gonna marry you, he gonna marry you. Even if you can't cook. If he really want to marry you, he's gonna marry you. Y'all figure some shit out. But I'm telling you, he ate that night without me being involved in any way, shape, or form. I said, TV dinners have a lot of sodium. But if you really watching your sodium intake all day long, you just pop a TV dinner in at the end of the night and you'll be fine. That's what I told him. So first of all, fellas, stop setting up these thirst traps for these women, and ladies, stop falling for it. Because the man who wants to get married might mention it once, but he ain't gonna talk about it all the time. He gonna sit back and check you out and see how you are, how you move, and vice versa. You should be checking him out and see how he move. And trust me, they ain't gonna be talking about it all the time. Those are traps. Don't fall for them. Okay? Don't pay him no attention. But I said to him, if you had a wife, what if she was sick? What if she was working the opposite shift as you? What if she really couldn't cook that good? What if y'all were working the same amount of hours? And back to my scenario of grocery shopping Saturday, cooking on Sunday for the week. Are you not willing to be flexible, or do you feel like your wife is going to come with XYZ? And then to me, it really felt like an audition. Like, okay, bring them in. Okay, she has this, she has this, she has this. You feel the criteria. Now let's see you act. Okay, go. Okay, good enough. You got the job. Like, it didn't feel like you're looking for me. It felt like you're just looking for a wife. And that's not very romantic, no, is it? Because me is different. Okay? I can't guarantee you a meal's going to be on the table at the end of every night. That's just not how I work. And to be honest, maybe this is me, and maybe this is why marriage is not being a thing anymore, or black women or women in general are not getting married or getting as excited about marriage. But I'm happy in my life. So if I decide to settle down with somebody, they need to be adding to the value of my emotional health, my spiritual health, and collectively us making sense financially. But if that doesn't, I'm happy. And you know what's funny? I came from the household that was you get married first, then you have a baby. But after I had a baby, that pressure was off. And the funny thing is, and this is my last point, when you go to school, you have different teachers in every grade level. You may have hated math in the third grade, but maybe by the ninth grade, you had a teacher that broke stuff down to you very well, and all of a sudden you realize, I am a math genius. I got to do the formula this way and not this way, and it makes more sense to the way my brain works. Different teachers teach you different things. But what people do is they get in relationships for long periods of time with one person, then they get in a long time relationship with another person. So you really only had two teachers that have a cap to what they can teach you. So as you're dating, shouldn't you date multiple people to teach you multiple things and do some self-research to what I say, find out what makes you truly happy and not what you think makes you happy. Then you look for a life mate based on the research you've done on yourself. Because how do you know another culture doesn't work for you? Maybe it does. Maybe you like the more manly kind of man in this type of culture. Or maybe you like the more liberal kind of man in this kind of culture. You know, how do you know you don't like this kind of music or this kind of food or this kind of man that goes out and dances or this kind of man that's really, strong and quiet and stern? You don't know. Or vice versa with the women. Maybe you like, some cultural effects of a Latin woman, or maybe you like a strong black woman, or maybe you don't care for the mouth of this type of woman, or maybe you're okay with this other, woman who was raised this way. How do you know what you like when you only have 2-3 teachers in life that you hit a cap with? That's why every grade level is different teachers for different subjects. And then you go off and pick a major. But that doesn't teach you enough to go off and pick a life major. That's why people switch jobs and careers. I think the average is like 3 to 5 times or something like that. But in self and in relationships, we don't do enough research and learn enough about ourselves that we can go off and say, I'm going to pick you as a mate. So what ends up happening is we hit an age where we're supposed to be married, to have a kid, and then have a kid. So now we feel this pressure to hurry up and meet somebody that's good enough for that time frame that you're supposed to have a kid, get married, have 1, 2, or 3, or 4 or more. And then all of a sudden you realize this person and I are not a good match, and you get a divorce. And now one's single and one's bitter. Because this is what I see happening. And now you're taking care of 3, 4 kids by yourself. And your partner, supposed to be your life partner, is off with a new girlfriend or a new boyfriend, depending on how you split up the kids. And you're like, the fuck? It's not what you signed up for, because we're teaching and we were taught you get married first. But you don't have enough research to be sitting there deciding who you're going to marry at 23, damn near 33. Like I said, at the end of every year, I find out something new about me. So with me specifically, once I had my daughter, I felt like it's way less pressure to get married and meet somebody, because now I have the end result. So now I have to figure out what's someone who's going to make me happy and someone that's going to be a good parent at the same time, versus finding out, oh my God, maybe you are a good match for me, but you're a horrible parent. Or maybe you're not a good match for me, but you are a great parent. But you still realize after kids, you're still an individual. You need somebody to still love you as an individual. But you've picked this person based on the fact that you have been taught your whole life. You need to hurry up and get married and find a mate. But what do you know about you to pick a mate? At that point, a lot of people, the answer is not a lot. I have one girlfriend that's divorcing, and I said, how are you doing? She says, I'm happy. I'm like, word, I didn't think about that. She said, I miss dancing. I miss doing things for me. So you didn't marry anybody that you go dancing with? I mean, of course, somebody's not going to have every single thing that you want, but knowing enough about yourself, and I'm not saying she didn't or they didn't have things in common. I blew my mind. She was just like, I want to go dancing. I don't want to do things I used to do and enjoy and laugh and be happy. I'm like, well, is it ridiculous to want to find somebody who does those things and goes into a marriage with you and enjoys those things with you? Do we just not do enough research? There's a video with Eartha Kitt in it, and this is going to be my last point. And the interviewer asked her, would you ever compromise for love? And she bust out laughing. Compromise for what? And the older I get, the more I understand it. Why can't you be you and me be me? One thing I had to tell somebody is, you don't love me the way that I need to be loved. You love me the way that you're going to love me, but you don't love me the way that I need to be loved. And for that, we cannot move forward. And that is a simple, because most people are not going to change. But they're going to love you to the level that they know what love is. And that may or may not work for you. And you have the right to walk away. But shouldn't we be doing all of these things in this research and getting this knowledge before we get married? Are we doing it wrong? And once you get married, do you have expectations based on that day? What if there is no food home? Are you going to throw a fit? Or you going to order? You going to be mad at your wife all night? Or you going to go out and get a pizza so everybody can eat? Because just maybe she had a rough day with the kids. Maybe she started feeling sick and she don't feel like herself. Maybe she's pregnant with another baby and just does not have the energy, and she did sleep all day. She slept all day because she's pregnant. But you come home and call her a lazy bitch because she ain't clean up or do anything, but she been throwing up and doesn't feel good and is exhausted. But now all of a sudden, because she didn't meet your expectations, you got an attitude versus working with the reality of the situation. Oh, it's not like her. You okay? Oh, I'm gonna go get some food. You need? You all right? Like, you gonna check it out, or you just gonna start going in because it wasn't what you expected or thought that you deserved to have that day? Are you gonna work with the reality of the situation, or are you gonna throw a fit about what you think you're supposed to be getting based on expectations? So these are just some very interesting thoughts that I've come up with over this last few months of dating and being single again. So if for me it never happens, I can truly say I'm finally okay with that. And if it does, it's going to be a wonderful man. And then you're still rolling the dice. Yeah, have a good one.